Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. Today, we're going to dive into an awesome episode with my man, Travis Chappell. He is a master networker and has done an exceptional job of creating a podcast, a brand, and a successful business very quickly. He had a vision, busted ass, and made it happen. You'll see why I love this guy when we get into the episode. And I really just wanted to take a minute to hone in on that importance of having a vision to achieve success in whatever aspect of life you're pursuing. Because without that vision and clarity on where you want to go and what success looks like for you, how the hell are you supposed to get there? You need that clarity so that you can intentionally pursue the life that you've always dreamed of. And that's why I put together a vision and goal setting course. I wanted to create a tool that gives you the step-by-step instructions on how to create a vision for your life and set goals that will bring you towards that vision. This is the exact template that I use. I actually just posted up in the park this past weekend and refreshed my vision and updated my goals to make sure that I'm on track to achieve that vision ultimately. I've used this process at the Launchpad Mastermind event I put on, and it works. So when you sign up, what you'll get is 3 PDF workbooks that I send to you over the course of a week that I guarantee will give you clarity on where you want to take your life. And if you get it and you don't take value out of it, just let me know, shoot me an email, and within the first 30 days, I'll give you a full 100% refund, no questions asked, so there's literally no risk to you. If you want to check it out, get in there, and if it doesn't give you, and if you don't get what you want out of it, then just let me know. So if you want to go ahead and get the exact process and templates that I use, head over to millennialmm.com/vision and get started today. Now, please enjoy this episode with the mighty Travis Chappell. Hello, all you beautiful people. Welcome to the Millennial Mastermind. Today's guest is Travis Chappell. Travis is the host of the Build Your Network podcast, a show with over 300 episodes on how to build meaningful relationships that can change your life. His mission is to help 1 million people cultivate genuine relationships the right way. The quality of his podcast guests is all the proof that you need to prove that he's the real deal when it comes to networking. He's got names on there like John Maxwell, Aubrey Marcus, Lori Harder, Pat Flynn, Lee Dumas, Dean Graziosi, Grant Cardone, Tom Bilyeu, and JP Sears, just to name a few. He talks the talk and he walks the walk. Travis, welcome to the show, my brother.
Brad, thanks so much for having me, my man. Good to be back here on the show with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were just talking before we hit record. I think it's great timing. Last time you were on the show, you might have been 10 or 15 episodes into your show. Now you've got over 300 episodes and just read off some of the names there. And it's been crazy to see what you've been able to do. I saw you got listed in Forbes as one of the top 10 podcasts to listen to in the self-development space or something like that. It's amazing what you've been able to do just over a pretty short amount of time.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So,
been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question to kick it off, though, that I will steal directly from your show. I don't ask this on every episode, but I do want to get your perspective on it. Do you believe it's who you know or what you know that's more important, and why?
Yeah, so you obviously already know the answer is who, but let me explain a little bit here why I think that it's who. I always liken this to being in line at an amusement park. So like if you're going to go to Disneyland with your friends, or better yet, Star Wars Land that just opened up within Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
If you're going to go check out Star Wars Land, and let's say you want to go ride a ride, and your friends ate before you got there, but you didn't, so you're kind of hungry, and you say, hey, I want to go grab some food. And like, okay, cool, we're going to go get in line. And so just hurry up. So you go over, you rush to the line, but it's a long line. They take forever to get your food. You scarf it down and you sprint back over to the line, and you start freaking out because you can't see your friends. But then all of a sudden in the distance, you see somebody waving at you, realize that your friends are up at the front of the line. So what do you do at this point? You don't just stand there in the back of the line and wait in the line and and not go up with your friends, you get called up to go up with your friends. So the way that I look at networking is exactly this type of a way, because you get to basically skip the line is how I view networking. Meaning that if you can connect with the people who are at the front of the line in your industry, the people who have already walked the steps before you, who've figured everything out, and who are at the top of their game, if you can connect with those people, then those are the people that are going to call you up to the front of the line. So here's the important part, and where I think this illustration really comes through, is that you still have to do the work. There's no such thing as connecting with the top people and then just teleporting to the front of the line. You still have to go through and do all of the work that it takes to get there. You still have to walk the same steps that they walked. The key here, though, is that you're doing it faster than everybody else that's in line. The people that are standing in line are stagnant, and you're walking past them at an accelerated rate, and you're going directly to the front of the line. So like, it still takes some time, and you still have to put in the work and implement the things that they tell you. But ultimately, you're going to get there a lot faster than people who aren't in communication with people that are at the front of the line, if that makes sense. So I always view, who you know, what you know, like both of them are important, yes. But I think if you spend more time on the who you know and you're purposeful and intentional about it, that your what you know is always going to increase exponentially, just being around the people that you know, if they're high quality people. So hope that kind of answers that question.
Yeah, and you're right. Obviously, I knew which side of the fence you'd fall on, but I do love that analogy, and I love that you mentioned you still have to do the work, because I feel like a lot of times people are talking about networking and finding mentors and connecting with the folks at the top of your industry, and they almost treat it as, the end all be all, where if you're able to do that and make those connections and build that network, that you've made it, you've done it. But you're right. It makes it easier, but you still have to take the steps. You still have to walk to the front of the line. So I appreciate you outlining that piece of it.
Yeah, man, people expect that once they've connected with somebody, that like all of a sudden their life's going to change overnight or whatever. But they don't realize that the people who've made it to the top respect work ethic and ambition, not just like connecting with them. Like, there's a lot of people who've connected with those top people who haven't made it to the top, and they might look at me and be like, Travis, well, I connected with this person, I didn't get to the top. Well, that's because you never implemented anything, my man. Like you didn't take any action. You may be an avid learner and connector, but that doesn't mean that you're an implementer and an action taker. Like, you have to learn and then implement, and then learn some more and then implement some more. It's like a constant, back and forth that has to happen, and you can't just blame it on somebody else who, gave you good information that you never acted on.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I want to go down that a little bit further. So do you have any examples of, obviously you've connected with some pretty high achievers at the top of their industries, at the top of the game. Do you have an example of, when you've connected with them, but then you've actually taken action based on that relationship and based on what you learned being able to connect with them, that made a difference and made an impact for your success?
Yeah, man. There's so many examples that I can think of. But let's just pick one, just like really practical, simple example here. Jordan Harbinger has become a good friend of mine and a unofficial mentor. And I'm a big fan of having as many unofficial mentors in my life as possible. A few official, ones that you pay for, but also a lot of unofficial mentors. And Jordan's kind of been that unofficial mentor for me. And he told me one thing once with my show that made me take things a lot more seriously. And then I actually implement it when I go about creating content. And that's when he told me, hey, look, man, every minute of the listener's time is earned. So you can't expect to have a successful show if you don't respect the listener's time when they're tuning into your show. The fact that they're taking any time at all is a huge thing, and you can't take that lightly. So if you want them to keep listening, then whatever they're listening to has to be worth their time. So from that point on, I always put through pieces of content. I put them through that filter. Am I respecting this person's time? Am I taking way too much time to say one thing that could have been done in a lot shorter period of time with the same impact? You know what I mean? Like, am I dragging on in my intro or my outro for no reason? Everything that I do now is gone through that filter. And that's somebody who's at the top of the podcasting game that I got that advice from, and I use it and I implement it on a daily basis with content creation.
Nice. Yeah, and I think that the success that you've seen with your show is proof that being able to implement those things is so important. I don't know if you've ever had this situation, but it seems to happen to me too frequently, where I will come to this great realization, whatever it might be about something that I'm doing with the show or with my business or in a relationship, and I'll make a change based on that realization, but then I'll think back and remember that somebody shared that exact same insight with me like a year ago, but I just failed to really get it and really implement it. I'm like, oh, damn. Like if I could have started doing that 12 months ago, what would have things have looked like? Like stupid
right.
Brad, but that's just because I'm a slow learner.
Yeah, I think just knowledge and information resonates with you at just certain times in your life. You know what I mean? Like it's just always like some things you're not at the position in your life where that piece of advice can have a big enough impact. So I think that it's not necessarily, I don't think it's you being a slow learner. I think it's just more like, hey, you know what? Like that wasn't a piece of advice that was like that timing on that advice wasn't super great. You know what I mean? Like, cause you can get a piece of advice, once, at this current point, and then 5 years down the road, get the same piece of advice and be like, oh, duh. And it's like, well, I learned that 5 years ago, but I didn't really understand what it meant. You know what I mean? So there's so many things like that unfold for me all the time, where I'll do something and I'll experience the power of a piece of advice and then be like, wow, like that is so true. But before I took it with a grain of salt, because it seemed like such a simple concept that it's not really like a piece of advice even. But now that I've like lived it and understood it, it's like, man, if you just focus on this one thing, you're going to get results. But before I wasn't in the position to be able to really understand what it meant,
Yeah, that's a great point. And so obviously going through the intro, you've had some pretty big names on the show. And I want to dive into your process a little bit and understand, when you're looking to, you have somebody on your list that yes, that is somebody who I would love to connect with, whether it's the Tom Bilyeus or the John Lee Dumases or the John Maxwells of the world. Say there was somebody new that hasn't been on your show yet, you're not currently connected with. What does your process look like to go out and try to get connected with that person to a point where, they can be a guest on your show down the road?
Now, man, there's so many different ways that I do that, but let me just keep it really simple for the sake of giving one action item for anybody listening. Instagram. I'll use this as an example. Instagram was the secret weapon for me, and it still kind of is in some ways. It's one of the only platforms where you can have direct access to anybody that you want, within reason. Obviously, if you message The Rock, he probably isn't going to be able to get back to you because he probably has 48,000 unread messages in his inbox. But for the most part, a lot of these business influencers, like they have people that take those things into account, and a lot of times your request will get through. So like spend some time and really research who you want to have on your show. Like that's really the biggest thing, or who you want to connect with if you don't have a show. That's really the biggest thing. I think the biggest mistake that people make is not having a list and not keeping track of that list effectively. If you have a list, then you know the people that you really want to have on your show, and your effort should match the desire that you have to get those people on. So for some people, I'll reach out once or twice and they say no, or I get ignored, and I don't really ever reach out again because it's not super important to me to get them on my show, but for other people, I can reach out 7, 8, 9, 10 times before I get a positive response and say yes. Some people I'll pay for the initial interaction just to get a foot in the door, to let them know that I'm serious about it and that I want to get them on the show, or I'll send a gift, or I'll send a thank you, or like I'll take a little bit of an uncommon action that's going to differentiate myself from other people that are reaching out, so that I can make an impression on somebody. So there's so many different things, but really I think it comes down to getting that initial clarity. And then if you don't have money to spend to like get in front of people, then use Instagram. And like make sure that you just put custom tailored messages to each person. So don't be that person that copies and pastes and sends it to 100 different people hoping to get a good response. Because I was about to say, it's just a numbers game. Somebody's going to say yes at some point. But I hesitate to say that because I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way and treat it like it's just a numbers game, because it's not just a numbers game. It's still a people game. But you shouldn't just reach out to one person that you want on your show, and then when you get ignored, be like, oh, Instagram doesn't work. Just if you have a list of 30 people, reach out to 5 or 6 of them a day with personalized messages, and you're going to get some positive responses if you keep doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah. And you probably get it now too with podcast booking agencies and things like that, where you can so easily tell where either they copied and pasted just the entire message, or even maybe just changed your name and the show title name in there somewhere in the body of the email, but it's so obviously a template that it's easy as hell to ignore. And that's from me, not somebody like one of these top of their industry folks who's getting dozens or hundreds of these messages on a daily basis. So I can only imagine how easy that is just to click ignore or delete on if you're in their position.
Totally, 100%.
So we were chatting a little bit before the show. You're a new dad. I'm an expecting dad. And so one thing that's top of mind for me is time management. And, obviously building a business and being a committed father, these are things that take significant amount of time. So how do you look at time management and think about it, especially when you're trying to build this business while being a committed father and being there for your family too?
Good question, man. I had this conversation actually with some people that were in town for a workshop that I was running on, podcast creation and growth and monetization and stuff. And we were talking about some of the expenses that I've incurred in my business. And I ran super lean when I first started, obviously, because I wasn't making any money. And basically, I've always been the work smarter, not harder kind of a guy. So I've never really subscribed to the you have to work long hours in order to get results. I just think you have to work smart hours on the right tasks in order to get results. And I think that there's a limit to that. I don't think that you can run an 8 to 9 or 10 figure business, if you're not willing to put in long hours, but 6 to 7 figures. I think that, you don't have to put in 90-hour work weeks to be able to make good money and have a lifestyle that's, filled with freedom. So I kind of live my life and operate my business that way. I have a very free lifestyle. I work as far as man hours go, I work a very reasonable amount of time every week. My brain is always running. Like my brain never shuts off. It's always thinking about ways to improve the business. And if you're a business owner out there, you know exactly what I mean. Brain's just constantly going about different things. But in terms of like actual man hours in the business, I don't work a crazy amount of hours because anything that I can outsource to somebody else that they're going to be better at than I am, that I don't enjoy, I give to somebody else. Like anything that I do. Which frees up all of my time. So right now I'm writing a book, running Facebook ads, I'm promoting an event, I'm filling up a high ticket mastermind, and I'm selling an online course and growing my Facebook community, growing my lower ticket mastermind. Like I'm doing all those things at once, but like almost everything that I just said has a person that takes care of all of that for me. So a mutual friend of ours, Dorothy, she runs my ads. I have another girl who's a ghostwriter who's writing my book for me. I just need to edit it and send it back to her. And then I have another guy who runs all of my social channels. He runs my Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, blogs, emails, YouTube, like everything. I have an editor that edits my podcast. I have like different touch points for basically everything that I have that I am not very good at and I don't enjoy doing. If I'm not really good at it and I don't enjoy doing it, then it gets outsourced to somebody who is good at it and can actually do it in a much more efficient and beneficial way than I would be able to, which frees my time up to be able to do the things that I'm really good at, which would be like reaching out to potential new guests, driving revenue and selling products and services and things like that. So It allows me to focus my time on the tasks that really demand my attention while giving all the other tasks that don't demand my attention to other people who are actually good at those tasks. Because that's the thing. Like if I tried to edit my own show, or if I tried to record and edit and upload my own videos to YouTube or Instagram TV, like they wouldn't even be good. Like I wouldn't even do a good job doing them. So I'd frustrate myself with hours of extra work to have a result, an end product that's not as good as what it's going to be if somebody else does it. So why am I going to do it? Just to save a little bit of money? Well, that's just a scarcity mindset, because that just means I have a fundamental disbelief in myself to go get more money. If I truly think that I attract money and I can go get more money, then why wouldn't I free up a ton of my time and fill my brain with a lot more positive energy by giving those tasks to somebody else?
Yeah, it's a really smart approach. And I think that one piece of that new entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs struggle with is, when do you start to outsource those things? So somebody who's just getting off the ground and they're not making much income or revenue from their entrepreneurial pursuit yet, when do they start offloading those tasks like the editing and things like that really aren't in their zone of genius? Kind of what's your gut about that of, when you started doing that? Was it right off the bat, or did you hit a certain level that you're like, okay, now I've earned the right to hire somebody to do that piece of it or to outsource that? Kind of what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think it depends on your goals for your business and self-awareness. I knew when I started my show that if I spent my time editing and writing show notes and uploading and publishing and doing all the ins and outs of running the show on a daily basis, I knew that if I did all of that, I would drive myself insane, and I would probably have quit on the show around month 4 or 5, because I know myself. It just comes from a fundamental understanding of who I am. And I know that I don't enjoy doing like if I don't enjoy doing a task and I'm forced to do it, and I don't have to do it, right? So there are some things that I don't enjoy that I still do because like I got to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? But if it's a task that I don't have to do and I can give to somebody else, then I'm going to give it away. And so I've had somebody else edit my show from the very beginning. And then as soon as I started bringing revenue on a monthly basis, I started outsourcing some of my social media stuff. And then I made some more money and I started outsourcing all of my social media stuff. And then I made some more money and then I started outsourcing my Facebook ads management. And so like every step has been filled with something that has allowed me to free up more time and focus on the things that I'm actually good at in my business. And I think it just comes from like I said, self-awareness, and then where do you want to go? You know what I mean? Like I would not have given Facebook ads to Dorothy because Dorothy's really good at what she does and she charges for that, and she should. And so it's not cheap to have her run my ads on a monthly basis. And I would not have given her that task and paid her that much money if I was just trying to run like a small 6-figure barely business. You know what I'm saying? Like it just, like I said, it comes from self-awareness of who you are, but also where you want to be. Because I know that if I want to be where my goals are, then I'm going to have to give that up to somebody eventually who's way better at it than I am in order to see success with those different campaigns. So like, I don't really have an option at that point. What's the alternative? The alternative is to stay at the level, that I am right now, bathing in mediocrity for as long as I'm willing to like not take the risk. So like, I'm going to go ahead and risk it and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's very inspiring, just the belief in yourself. And I think you have to have that if you're really going to give it a real shot.
You got to be all
perspective.
You got to be all in, man. Like if you can't even believe in yourself, how do you expect everybody else to believe in you? Mm-hmm. I get really tickled with that when people are like, well, nobody believes in me. It's like, well, do you believe in yourself? Not really. Well, you can't, how do you expect all these other people to believe in you if you don't even believe in yourself, man? Like it starts with you. Mm-hmm. You have to believe in yourself. And then that belief in yourself catches on to other people. It's contagious. People are around you and you believe in yourself without being an arrogant, cocky prick about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you believe in yourself in that, way that's filled with humility, then people around you are going to be attracted to that. And that belief will start to catch fire. which has been something that is amazing for me to watch with my audience. Is like, I don't have a super large audience like a Gary Vee style audience, but the people who are my audience believe in me, man. They believe that I'm going to like continue to grow what I'm doing, and they believe in my ability to like add value to them, and they buy products and services and things that I put out there. And that belief, I think, just comes from this like contagious attitude of like me betting on myself. I recently invested $100,000. The show is called the Millennial Mastermind. I recently invested in $100,000 mastermind. That was a very uncomfortable decision for me. And, but ultimately that was what I asked myself is, hey, Travis, what's the alternative? What's the alternative to doing this? Like, are you going to one day regret not doing this because it could have saved you a tremendous amount of time and trouble? And the answer was yes. So I knew that I had to pull the trigger on it. And it may have taken me 3 months to make up my mind, okay, and make a decision and sign a contract and commit and make the first payment and stuff. But ultimately I did it because like I said, I just think it's a bet on myself. I'm investing into myself, in my knowledge and relationships, but ultimately it's a bet on myself, and it's the ultimate accountability partner. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and also we're in a space where the product and the services that you're selling around information, and if you don't believe in yourself and what you're talking about and what you have to offer, nobody's going to buy from you if you can hardly convince yourself that it's worth buying, that it's worth selling. So it's so important to bring that type of attitude to the world. And you're right, it's not about being cocky or an asshole about it. It's just about being confident in your ability to add value to other people, because you've earned that right to be able to teach them that, and you've learned a lot of these things yourself. So it's an important seat to be sitting in. And kind of speaking of this space, so there's a lot of listeners to this show who are aspiring entrepreneurs who are interested in starting their entrepreneurial career with an information or a content-based business, really an education-based business, whether that's putting content out there on podcasts or YouTube or blogs, and then finding ways to monetize what it is that they know. You've done a really good job at this, building the podcast up and then being able to create products and services around that and around the information that you're able to share and what you've learned. If you're willing to go into it a little bit, I would love just to dive into the business model behind that a little bit, of what that looks like, just to give people some ideas of whatever you're comfortable sharing, of if that's the route to go down. How do people get started? Say they know they want to build a brand, and they know that they're starting to build an audience, but they're not quite sure what the business piece of that looks like. Would you mind talking about that a little bit? Yeah,
for sure. So you're basically talking about like if you're looking to start a content-based business or information-based, knowledge-based business.
Yep.
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts around that. If you're listening to this and you are dealing with imposter syndrome, which I can almost guarantee you that you are. Everybody does, and everybody's felt that. And I'm sure Brad did when he started his show. I definitely did when I started my show.
Sure
and
did.
Still battle it all the time. Yeah, and that's a natural thing. And especially if you're young, if you're a millennial, I think it's probably even exaggerated, because that's how I was. It's like, man, I'm 24 years old when I started my show. I'm 24 years old. Who's going to listen to me? Why would anybody listen to me over anybody else that's out there in iTunes? I'm a 24-year-old kid, right? So something interesting happened for me. I started a show about a topic that I was not an expert in and that I didn't really know much about. So it seems counterintuitive, but this is one thing that I just to, like I said, I'm going to try to keep it simple for the audience and just give you like one thing here. Just know that you don't have to be an expert to build an expert-based business. Sounds very counterintuitive. And I am not one of those people that says, oh, just fake it till you make it. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not the rent the Lamborghini and take a picture guy. What I am saying, though, is that you can build an expert-based business by interviewing experts only, by talking to people who are actually really good at something that you want to learn. So that's the big thing, is like, you don't have to be an expert at it, but it does need to be something that you're a little bit passionate about, that you're at least interested in learning more about, because it's something that you're going to be dedicating a lot of your time to. I knew when I started my show, I basically looked at it at iTunes, Brad, and I went and searched sales in iTunes, because my whole background was in door-to-door sales, training, recruiting, managing, all that kind of stuff. So I figured, hey, why not start a podcast about sales? So I go type in sales in iTunes, and there's like like 350,000 podcasts that have to do with sales, right? So I was like, well, it's probably going to be pretty difficult for me to stand out in that industry. So what's another thing that I would look back on and think, man, if I could attribute the small amount of success that I've seen up to this point in my life, what would I attribute it to? And relationships was the other thing. It was just like, man, it seems like mentorship has been huge for me, getting around somebody who's done it really well and learning from them. And so I was like, oh, I'll do it about networking. And so I go over to iTunes, I type in networking, and much to my surprise, there weren't any shows that dealt specifically with that one topic. There's a couple that, talk about it, and everybody says it's good and everybody says you should do it, but there wasn't one show dedicated to doing that one thing. So I figured, hey, there's a little bit of a blue ocean here. I'm going to take advantage of it. And I didn't know anything about it. I never went to networking events. I was 24 years old. I was not a networker. I was a door-to-door salesman. If I knew how to network, I wouldn't be knocking on doors. You know what I mean? Or I would, have a bunch of, people working for me or whatever it was. So I was not the networking expert, and I didn't have any contacts that I could start with, but all I knew was that it was an interesting topic to me. And I truly believed that if I could get in front of anybody that I wanted, that I'd be able to learn and implement what they do and teach. And so that was the reason I started the show about networking, was just, the whole point is this: you don't have to be an expert. You can take the role of a reporter or an investigator. All I was doing with networking was talking to people who were amazing at it, who built successful businesses and attributed a lot of that success to relationships. All I was doing was talking with them and asking them what they did to get to where they are in terms of networking and how to go about doing it the right way. And then, through learning directly from them, I obviously got better at it just by spending time with those people. But also it was an accountability partner for me. My podcast was an accountability partner for me, because it wasn't just interviews that were teaching me. I felt like I owed my audience to be really knowledgeable about that topic. So now I've read several books on networking that I would have never read before. But I feel like I owe it to my audience to be constantly learning about how to network better myself. If I'm teaching about it and I'm constantly sharing content about it, then I need to make myself better at it. So if you're listening right now and you're like, I want to do something, I want to start some sort of content creation platform, I want to, start sharing knowledge information, but I'm young, I don't have a lot of knowledge information. I don't know how to get this thing going. Don't feel like you got to be the expert. Just go start creating content around something that you really want to learn about. And whether it's sales or persuasion or marketing or, being curious, or, something more specific like writing email copy or sales copy, or, building funnels, or, being a better real estate agent, like whatever it is, just find something that you want to do and start creating content around that topic, because you're going to be forced to do research. You're going to be forced to talk to people who are amazing in those industries, and you will get better at it, and you'll get better at it exponentially faster than you would if you didn't have something there that's constantly keeping you accountable to seeing those things happen. And then once you do that, like, you start creating content, you don't have to have the business side worked out. If you're like, yeah, that all sounds good, but like, I want to make money from this, Travis, I totally get it. All you have to do is start creating that content. When you create content around a specific topic, you're going to start attracting people into that audience that listen to your stuff, that care about that content, and then those people, once you spend enough time with them, they're going to tell you what they want from you. They're going to tell you the products and services that you should build out and give back to them. Like, they're going to be the ones to shed light on the things that they want to hear more from you. So don't feel like you have to have it all figured out going in. Just take action in that direction, and things will start to unfold for you.
Amen, brother. Yes. You can tell you're passionate about it. And another perspective of it that I've heard recently, and I don't know if you ever read the book or seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, but it outlines, Frank Abagnale.
Jordan Harbinger just had Frank Abagnale, the actual guy.
No shit. Show. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and so one of the things that Frank Abagnale did was he was a con man, now works for the FBI, but he impersonated like an airline pilot, lawyer, all these different things. But one of them was a college professor, and he's actually going in teaching a college graduate level class. And after he got caught, they asked him, how did you pull this off? And like, how did you teach a college level or a graduate level course? And he said, oh, it's easy. I just stayed one chapter ahead of the students in the book. And so literally it relates so well to this space too, because if all you need to do is know something that somebody who's one step behind you is trying to learn, if you could help them learn that, then you're adding massive value to them. And if it's something that you just learned, you went through the hardships of learning or paid the price to learn, then you come from a position where you can help them learn that, and it's fresh for you too. So it's even more powerful. So
and they say that you never really learn something until you can teach it anyway.
Right.
So that's how I always tell people to have a well-rounded network, meaning that you need to network behind, network ahead, and network across. So like you need to reach out to people who are ahead of you in the journey or above you in the journey. Reach out to and connect with them, and then reach out to people who, these people are going to be your mentors. They're going to help pull you up, right? Mm-hmm. And then you reach out across to a bunch of people who are on the same or similar level on your journey. These people are going to be supporters, collaborators, partners, like those types of people, right? But then you also, like, people forget about reaching back behind, reaching underneath, like where you are currently, and help out the people who want to be where you are. Because wouldn't you have loved if somebody would have taken the time to help you out when you were starting from nothing and wanted to get somewhere? I think that's one of the keys to having a really well-balanced network is being able to reach out, above, get mentors, reach across, get partners, reach below, get mentees, and continue that process. And then what happens is, if you picture this, it's almost like a barrel of monkeys, right? Like the guy on top is holding the guy in the middle, and the guy in the middle is holding the guy in the bottom. And it's just like this almost just mass of people moving forward and up together and helping each other out during that, which I think is a really great picture.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And speaking of reaching backwards, so helping the people behind you, I loved asking this question of if you could reach back and help yourself back in the past, right when you were starting the Build Your Network podcast, you were just getting started on this entrepreneurial journey. Is there one piece of advice that you might give to yourself at that position, based on all of the things that you've learned from your mentors and your journey up to this point?
One piece of advice that I give myself back then would be really practical, and it would just be work on your email list sooner. I put that task off for about 1.5 years, and I'm paying the consequences now, quite literally paying for my mistakes. Really, I feel like every part of the process that I've had to go through, I've really just had to go through it. And so there's not really much other than that I would change in the last couple of years. But if I could go back to my 18, 19-year-old self, I would have told him to start creating content immediately. If I would have had a 4 or 5 year head start on that, especially back when iTunes wasn't as saturated as it is now, I think I'd be light years ahead of where I am right now. But, everything happens for a reason. Maybe I wouldn't have been that good, because I think one of the reasons that I've seen success in a shorter period of time was the experience from all the door-to-door sales that I had done in learning how to communicate and sell people, that has enabled me to see the success I've seen in a shorter period of time. So, you know what I mean? Like you can always go look back and think about certain things and think about, different ways that you could have done better or whatever. But ultimately, like, what's happened has happened, and probably a lot of that's happened for a reason. So.
Yeah, true that, brother. So for anybody who wants to check out your show or learn more about what you're up to, Travis, anywhere that you'd point them to learn more?
Yeah, I would love for you to listen to the show. TravisChappell.com/show is where you can find it. TravisChappell.com is 2 P's, 2 L's. So TravisChappell.com/show. You can find it anywhere on any of the platforms that you listen to as well. If you just search Travis Chappell, or if you search Build Your Network, should pop up there. But anything else, you can head over to TravisChappell.com and find just about anything you want.
Love it. We'll have it all linked up in the show notes. You all know where to find that at millennialmm.com. But appreciate you being here, Travis. Love having you on. Glad to have been able to see your success over the past couple of years. It's been an inspiration to me just to see what's possible if you really bust your ass and get to it. So congrats on your success, and looking forward to seeing where this rocket ship goes.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brad. Thanks so much for having me on again and being a supporter from day one. I truly, truly appreciate that. Can't wait to hang out again in person someday soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck with the baby, the pregnancy. Hope everything goes well.
Thank you. Appreciate it, brother.